Brought to you in part by Monadnock Flooring and Decorating, offering quality sales, service, and installation for over 35 years on Production Avenue next to Subaru of Keene. Hey everybody, welcome to A Culinary Journey. I'm Luca Paris, and we're going to talk about mushrooms. Probably one of my favorite things to add to almost anything. We're going to be doing mushrooms all day. And you know what? I can't talk about mushrooms without bringing in who, I guess he's known in town as the mushroom guy. He is the ultimate. When you need a mushroom question answered, you go to David Wichland, and I decided to bring him into the show today to help me out. So he's going to help me cook a couple of things. We're going to pan-sear, or actually we're going to grill a ribeye, and we're going to get some mushrooms over the top. We'll ask him what kind to use. Pork medallions with a Madeira sauce. We're going to add mushrooms to that. And a pancetta vinaigrette over greens, and we're going to add mushrooms to that. David's going to tell me what mushrooms to use. We're going to do some cooking. We're going to drink some mushroom tea. And guess what? Your culinary journey starts now. Everybody, welcome back to A Culinary Journey. My good friend David Wichland. David, thanks for joining me, man.
You're welcome. Thank you.
This is great to have you on. You've been on like once before, a bunch of years ago.
Two years ago.
Is it? You remember?
Yeah.
I barely remember yesterday. But that time you were sitting down.
I was.
Today I'm getting you to work.
That's right. And that time I was beardless. Now I have a beard.
For those of you who are looking up on the internet, yes, it's true. I'm glad you remembered. Hey, so let's talk mushrooms. You know how much I'm in love with mushrooms, and we've had you on the radio show and now on TV, and you've been teaching me so much about mushrooms. And there's so many different types in this area.
Yeah.
And you go out and you forage, you grow your own and you forage them.
Correct.
Is that the cultivate and forage?
That's right.
So talk a little bit about that, and while you do that, we'll get to this. We'll cook eventually.
Well, we have some of the best woods in the world because we have lots of deciduous trees and mixed hardwoods, softwoods.
Right.
So we have so many different types of ecosystems for mushrooms to grow in. And since mushrooms are the grand molecular disassembler, they break everything down. That's why we have so many beautiful mushrooms, because there's so much detritus for the mycelium to eat.
Okay, so and this is basically the mycelium is the start of all this.
Pretty much.
And the mycelium grows and breaks down things.
Everything.
And the mushrooms are the buds of the flowers of
They're
the
the fruit.
mycelium?
They're the fruit.
Right.
Yep.
That's pretty awesome.
And mushrooms throw spores, which then go through asexual reproduction and keep on reproducing.
And it's amazing because you could come to me almost any time of the year. I mean, there are the colder times of the year that you can't find a lot, but almost any time of year, there's some mushrooms still breaking through.
And even in the middle of winter when we have thaws,
Yeah.
mushrooms that can do it will pop out
That's
in the middle of
amazing.
winter.
So we have a bunch of different things with us today. What I'm going to do is I want to get started. We talked about 3 recipes we're going to make. We're going to make a pancetta vinaigrette with some mushrooms, and we're going to pick those out. And we're going to put that over a salad, which, correct me if I'm wrong, no raw mushrooms on a salad, right?
Really shouldn't eat raw mushrooms. We're about the only culture in the world that actually eats raw mushrooms.
Because I remember growing up in the 80s, everybody would do that. What was that? The spinach salad with sliced button mushrooms and the eggs and the vinegar, like a bacon vinaigrette.
Yep.
And it was always raw, right? Yeah, and always on salad bars. But you wouldn't eat them raw because of?
Well, mushrooms are organisms that break things down. And in your body, it actually goes towards trying to break you down sometimes.
Really?
And if you go around the world, and you probably even, from Italy, you don't see a lot of raw mushrooms.
No.
They're generally always cooked.
We either cook them, or we dry them, but you still always cook them afterwards.
That's right.
Too.
And even like when I see people making like button mushrooms in a vinegar, it's actually a chemical cooking.
Right,
that way.
it's still breaking it down.
It's not the pure raw mushroom.
Perfect. So,
Little raw mushroom probably is not going to hurt you. But over the course of a life, if you eat lots and lots of raw mushrooms, there might be a chance that maybe there could be some effect.
Now, you mentioned the button mushroom, and I think that's probably the most popular thing everyone knows, the white button mushroom.
Right.
Now, is that For a guy like you, would you not have a button mushroom because you could have all this other stuff, or does that really matter?
Well, I like buttons, but they don't have much flavor compared
Right.
to other mushrooms, and I can't compete with that market in the growing mushrooms because it's like a full-on monoculture crop, and
Right.
you know, Pennsylvania pretty much has it cornered.
In Pennsylvania, they do that. They do portobello mushrooms.
They portobellos, creminis.
creminis, which
You're
are
starting to see more shiitakes down there.
It's amazing. And now, but up here, you kind of concentrate on, and if you haven't seen his grow house, and he won't show it to just anybody. I got to see it.
He's special.
I got to see it. It's pretty amazing what's growing in there. There's bags like this one in there, right?
Yeah, this
That
is
grow-
called the elm oyster right there. Hapsaigus ulmarius is the Latin name. And it grows originally on elm trees, but you can actually inoculate wood chips or inoculate trees and actually grow the mushrooms from those substrates.
That is incredible. Now, I lost all my knives. I was going to give you a knife. Can you grab that knife over there?
Sure.
You don't mind? And I'm going to have you cut that down. Let's talk about what we're making. I'm doing a pancetta vinaigrette that I'm starting off right here. It's just going to have some shallots and a little bit of pancetta. I actually cure my own pork belly into a pancetta.
Nice.
Which is aged and seasoned and then hung to dry for 6 months at least. And then you get this gorgeous pancetta out of it. And now I'm putting some shallots. Now warm, you can do this with bacon if you don't have pancetta or anything like that. But we're going to make a salad. Now what's the best type of mushroom out of this mix that we should do for a salad, and what should we do to it?
Well, this kind of has a little strong flavor, so I would pick a strong flavored mushroom.
Okay.
And two stronger flavored mushrooms would be the shiitake
Okay.
and the hen of the woods.
So
Actually considered to be some of the most healthy mushrooms.
Really? And what makes it healthier than other mushrooms?
She helps fight cancer in the body.
Okay.
Has omega-3s, polysaccharides, has all sorts of things that just nothing else has. And around the world, these are considered to be some of the most prized medicinal mushrooms.
And the best way for us to put this together is just saute them in the pan and just let them speak for themselves. So we're just going to put a little oil, the shiitake, and that in there.
Yep.
So let's
I pretty much say mushrooms, you can't go wrong with sauteing. Just a little olive oil, a little bit of butter, and then just cook it to your liking. You know, some people like them very crispy, some people like them a little more mushy, mushroom-like.
Last time we had them, you were talking about how you like to crisp up your mushrooms.
Yeah.
It's almost like a
My
crunch,
wife
right?
loves crispy mushrooms.
What was the one that is it the trumpets?
The
that
black trumpets. I
Yeah.
can't even cook those without not
Yeah,
being able to.
and you have to bring them all the way down. Now, when you're cooking mushrooms, and David, you probably have had that too, it does absorb. They're still they're very sponge-like, so
That's
they're going
right.
to absorb all the oil that's in the pan.
Yep.
Go a little bit heavier. And I think using a better quality oil, a good quality butter, all the ingredients, because they're really going to soak it up.
Yeah.
So if you don't do that, if you're using an oil that just has no flavor or might be an older oil or whatever, that's what the mushrooms are going to taste like.
Yeah.
Right? So we kind of keep it neutral. I use a good extra virgin olive oil. I'm not going to sear them on too high. I just want to break them down a little bit, right? Is that
Sure.
good?
Yeah. And everyone's get different flavors, you know.
Yeah.
If I was cooking for my wife, she'd like them nice and crispy. Some
Right, so
people
you'd
like
break
them a
them
little
down.
bit more mushroomy.
Do you use a specific oil, or you just kind of use a vegetable oil? And break them
I
down
use
like
a
that?
very nice virgin olive oil that I
Okay.
usually like to
then you
use.
cook it with that.
And then of course a little Cabot butter.
Nice.
Salted.
Finishing them off with a little butter.
Yep.
So I'm just going to get them into the oil right here. We're going to season them with
Yep.
salt and pepper.
And a lot of times I don't even cut the hen because they
rip 'em?
peel right
Oh,
off.
look at that.
Just like that. I just kind of
just
get
peel
that
them all
nice little
apart.
shape. Right like that.
All right, I'm going to turn this down. My pancetta here is kind of rendering down with the shallots. We're getting the fat from that right into the oil that it started in. There's a little salt and pepper in here. And we're going to show you just how quick this part of the process is. Good white wine vinegar. Now, if you're making a vinaigrette at home, what I really recommend is using good wine vinegars, a sherry wine vinegar. Spend a little bit more on those, because when you make your vinaigrette, especially a warm one, it really makes a big difference in flavor. If you have a wine or a white vinegar at home, basically that's great for cleaning floors, right? Just straight white vinegar. You clean your floors or your windows with that. You want to cook with a white wine vinegar. There's a big difference. All right, let's get this in there with the mushroom. Now, mushrooms cook at different, I'm thinking about it like seafood sometimes. Do they cook at different speeds?
Oh, absolutely.
Would you,
chicken of the woods takes a long time to cook.
Okay.
Where these guys, you know, 8 minutes, 10 minutes, you'll probably be fine. And I tell people with the chicken of the woods, for example, if you think it's done, cook it for another 5 minutes.
Really? So it's almost like...
Well, because it's attached to the tree.
Right.
And it's loaded with moisture.
And does the woodsiness of the mushroom or the kind of, I don't know, the fiber of the mushroom, does that make a big difference to each one?
It's all about timing, when you find it.
Right.
And if it's too old, you'll know it. It's
really?
chewy and
Now,
chewy.
Do you like your mushrooms a little chewy or no?
No. I like them fresh and soft. And then when I cook them, I don't mind them a little firm.
Right.
But, you know, you really need to know, 'cause I've had lots of people who try to sell me mushrooms who'll come up with old mushrooms and be like, what will you give me for them? And
now,
I'll be like, nothing.
How do you tell the difference between an older, it's just by touch mostly, right?
I'll actually pick it up, rip it in half, look at the inside, and then chew on it. I won't eat it, but I'll chew on
and
it
then
to
it.
see its flavor.
Nice.
And see if it's chewy and buggy. You know, you rip up a mushroom that's filled with bugs. I can't sell it to you.
Right. You know you can't.
I know. I stand behind my product too, because once in a great while, you know, you cut open a bunch of porcinis and they all look fine, and then just one randomly, you'll get a few worms in it.
And that could happen with anything. I mean, we are talking about items that come out of the ground.
That's right.
So there you go.
I'll always have a restaurant say, I got a couple of buggy ones, and I'll give them a couple free mushrooms. You know,
exactly.
It's like if you cook a well-done steak and someone wanted it rare.
I don't do that.
Oh, well, you wouldn't, but you never know about your cook.
You never know. All right, I'm going to put the mushrooms over the greens real quick. And then,
this is one of my favorite ways to have mushrooms.
And then our little warm vinaigrette that'll go over and kind of wilt everything together. Oh. But bacon and mushrooms, a little bit of vinegar. Ooh, that's some nice flavor. That's our first dish, a really simple dish. It kind of harkens back to the mushroom spinach salads from when I was waiting on tables for the first time in the 80s. This is one of those things I remember. All we need is a nice duck egg or quail egg on there, poached, right? That'll be beautiful. All right, well, don't go away. We're going to be making steak and pork when we come back. Talking about more about mushrooms, drinking more mushroom tea. You're going to love this mushroom journey, and Dave's awesome. Don't go away. We're grinding away here on a culinary journey. Hey, welcome back, everybody.
Good.
Oh, keep going.
All right.
No, stop. Okay. I just want to see if I can make you do that. Hey, what we're going to be talking about today is mushrooms. This is David Wichland. Dave, thanks for joining us today.
Welcome.
We're going to have a blast with the rest of our mushrooms. We just made a mushroom salad, basically a saute of mushrooms. We use shiitake and hen of the woods.
Yes.
Shiitake and hen of the woods. We sauteed those with a little pancetta vinaigrette and over some mixed greens. You could do it over some baby spinach or even microgreens and make it really nice. And then we're also going to be doing a beef or a ribeye steak that's going to be coated with dry mushrooms. That's what you're doing here, David. What's in there right now?
There's morels, there's black trumpets, there's chanterelles, and there might even be a couple of miscellaneous porcini pieces.
And drying them is putting them in a rehydrator or just actually letting them dry?
A dehydrator.
Yeah, yep. No, you wouldn't rehydrate.
Well, you could rehydrate, but...
It's my first day.
Yeah, I have a nice dehydrator. Some people just use the sun. But I find a dehydrator does it quick, and you don't get mold problems.
And this is a way, right? And this is a way to be able to hold mushrooms for a long time. And in Italy,
years and years.
Yeah, and in Italy, I was introduced to that first with the porcini mushroom, and I've never really seen it in its fresh form until you started bringing it into me too, which is pretty exciting. We'll talk about that when we talk about our steak. But first, what we're going to do is this: you're going to keep pulsing that away. I'm going to get our pans ready. What we need to do right now is get 2 pans going, a grill pan for our ribeyes, and then a saute pan for our pork and my 2 meats. David, we're going to put your dust onto the ribeyes, and what's going to happen is by dusting the ribeyes, you're going to get more of that mushroom flavor, intense flavor. And there is a difference of the two, right? When you have a dry mushroom and you have a fresh mushroom, even the same variety, the flavor is actually different.
Much stronger with the dried.
And it kind of really pops.
It's like concentrated.
Yeah. So I'm going to let you do that. I want you to kind of dust these. I've pulled these out. We let them rest for about 10 minutes before we serve. before we start actually cooking them. So we rest before we put them in the pan so they get close to the room temperature.
Okay.
And we're going to rest them afterwards so we get them in right at the temperature we want. I'm going to have David dust this with a little salt and pepper. He's got some already ground up, and we can use a little bit of both. And then on this side, what I'm going to be doing is getting our pork scallopini ready. Now this is a quick and easy dish that we're going to be able to do. I love pork loin, the fresh pork loin, right? And on the pork loin, I just cut off real thin slices and I pound them out to almost that they look like veal. I leave a little bit of the fat on because fat is flavor, and I love that. That's another reason why I love using the ribeyes, because they have all that nice marbling throughout. Are you a meat guy? You like
love
steaks?
Meat.
Yeah, and nothing goes better with mushroom than steak, right?
You're right.
Yeah. If you ask Lee, nothing goes better with steak than more
Mushrooms.
steak. No.
Right.
Yeah, he'll just take the steak the way it is. So what I'm going to do is get some oil in this pan. This has already been seasoned. I've been using it for a couple of shows. There's a little bit of oil in there, but I'll just drizzle just a little bit more until we get it nice and hot. I want to get a nice grill marks on my ribeyes. Now, don't be afraid at any time of the year to actually take these outside. I mean, it's the middle of winter, and you could grill on your grill on outside or in a barbecue. That's a great way to go.
We'll put a little salt on it too?
Yeah, salt and pepper. Go right ahead. Let's season it, bring it all together, and then I give it a nice little massage. And if you don't mind massaging.
Sometimes I even salt cook things. Just put salt in the pan, no oil at all.
And then just let that kind
of
of
get nice and brown and dark, and that's how you can mix the mushroom powder in there too.
That's a great idea. And what he's talking about salt cooking, see, when you have the salt in the pan without any oil, the salt, the first thing it does is start attracting moisture or taking moisture away from the meat item, and in this case it's mostly the fat. So the fat starts coming out of the meat, starts searing it, and you really get a beautiful cook.
Nice and
there.
dark, locks in all the juices.
And it's an incredible way to do it. So that's something we could do. So we got one side of this, got that down. I'm going to start the pork, but actually we could get this in there. Do you want to do the other side too? Do we want to do it?
Want to just do it right over the top of the pan?
You do that. I'm going to bring you over there. Why don't you go over, put that in the pan. That should be ready to go. While you do that, I'm going to get the pork going. And the pork scallopini is going to be a lot quicker. So let me turn this down just a little bit. Oh, maybe I should have turned that up higher for you. Oh, it's going to get a sizzle on there. My pork's actually, this pan got hotter than that pan. And here, you know what? What do you think if we kind of cheated a little bit? Let me borrow that for a second.
Sure.
I'm going to put a little bit of this in our flour.
Yeah.
Put a little bit of our... So, because we want mushrooms to come through this whole thing, right? So
that's right.
Why don't we just do that? Because when we season our flour, we're just getting more flavors in there. So we're seasoning our flour. We're going to put our scallopini in there. And David's getting our ribeye on the grill, which is very, very exciting. All right, let's get that back on, get that searing. There you go. And then look how thin these scallopini are. It's going to be very, very quick to cook these. And that's the thing. A lot of people will get a pork loin and throw it in the oven. You're going to get mushroom everywhere, aren't you?
I love it.
You get a pork loin, put it in the oven, and it takes, a couple hours. Here we're going to do these scallopini pork, and then we're going to just quickly pan sear them. I'm going to take them out, and then we're going to talk about what type of mushrooms. Never too much mushroom for you, my friend.
Never.
That's awesome. Let's get this last one
But
ready to go.
there are mushrooms that can ruin a dish.
Okay, let's talk. Thank you.
And you're one of the only person that actually wanted me to get truffles for them one time.
Yes.
You can kill a dish with truffles.
I totally agree.
Kill it.
It could be totally
strong.
overdone. Here, you can
And that's
use
why, why you see truffles, like people are like, whoa, wow, I didn't get much truffle on that. And I was like, if you added too much, it would ruin the dish.
Right. And besides the fact that it costs
it's really expensive.
That too.
Yep.
All right, there's a garbage can right here if you need it. There you go.
Okay.
All right, so we're searing up our pork, and we got our steaks going. So we're going to leave our steaks alone. We'll come back to those in a minute. But you see how quick we just seared up the pork? And then once we put the mushrooms in there. Now, let's talk about the mushrooms to serve with our pork, because we're going to get that going. What do we want to do for those?
Well, pork has kind of a softer, milder flavor, so I'm going to use a mushroom that almost has kind of a fruity, sweet flavor to it.
Okay.
And they're beautiful for displaying because you can use the whole mushroom.
All right.
So this is called the brown beech. This is called the white beech. Mm-hmm. And originally they're grown on beech trees.
Okay.
But now you can grow them on wood chips or on beech.
And are these some that you grow yourself also?
Yes. I grow them on these blocks of wood chips.
Okay.
And where this mushroom fruits off the side, this mushroom I cut the bag's top and they fruit out of the top.
Okay.
So you can get that nice.
Awesome. And those are wood chips in there.
That's just wood chips.
And you add the mycelium?
Mycelium.
and the different mycelium that you already know which they are. You add those to the wood chips, and then give them the right temperature and feel and everything,
Yep.
and then they grow.
Yeah, I have what they call a spawn library.
Nice.
And I have mushroom cultures that I have captured.
Right.
And then I expand them out into different medians.
Wow.
So I go from grain to wood chips, or grain to plugs, and the plugs I put in logs.
Right.
And
I've actually hammered one of your plugs in.
Yeah,
I did.
that.
I remember doing that. All right, so let's cut up these mushrooms because I want to get that into this pan and get that going. So we're going to get this up on heat. Oh, you want to get those in there? Yeah, let's get them in. So it is. Just take them off like that.
Yeah.
Let's get just a little bit more oil into this pan so they get seared up. Now, do these have to cook down as much, or we keep them?
I would cook these for about 10 minutes.
Okay, good. Well, we're gonna have a good amount of time because what I'm gonna do is get them searing, and then we're gonna finish the sauce into the mushrooms, and then they add the pork right back in. Sound good?
That sounds good.
All right. So what other ones? We're doing the beach. Did you want to add anything else into those?
I'll put in a few king oysters in here too.
All right.
And kings are nice because you can do nice long thin slices, and then you could julienne them, so that
nice.
They kind of have that really cool shape about them, nice and long. And when people eat them, they're like, "Wow, this is a mushroom."
Now that looks similar to a porcini, or no?
Yeah, they kind of does look similar. And some cooks kind of say they're porcinis, but they're not.
Okay.
You would never do that.
No, I don't. I only do.
They're definitely they're a grown mushroom, where porcini cannot be grown, and that's why porcinis are so expensive.
Now, when you say porcini cannot be grown, you cannot
cultivate reproduce them in a grow house or in a cave. They are what they call mycorrhizal mushrooms. Mm-hmm. So they have a relationship with the forest and the trees and certain bacteria and yeasts that are in the soil.
This looks like a pasta.
And they just cannot be grown.
Look how gorgeous this looks already. Man, that is nice. All right, so what we have going on here, let's talk. We're gonna get these down to the point where we're almost done with most of them. We're grilling up our steaks, and our steaks are absolutely looking beautiful. I'm saving this room because we're gonna add some mushrooms. On this side, we have a couple of mushrooms going to town with some garlic in the pan. Now, the only thing I'm gonna do to this, we're gonna give them some more moisture. It's some Madeira wine, so I'm gonna pull away because we don't want to start a mushroom fire. Get a good amount of that Madeira sweetness in there.
Nice.
And just a hint of lemon juice. Now, I use lemon for a lot of seafood. Let me sneak that lemon juice to your right-hand side.
Sure.
I use lemon in a lot of seafood, but I love it with mushrooms. I just think that acidic balance kind of hits the mushrooms right way, and then it brings out all the flavors. And like for me, anytime, lemon juice really just opens up your palate for a lot of different flavors. So we're going to cook that down. While these are cooking down, give us a couple of minutes on that. Let's talk about what mushrooms we want to put in here, and I want to grill those. What are we doing in there?
These are porcinis. Mm-hmm. And these are called the chanterelle.
Okay.
And they have this kind of has a little bit of a nutty flavor. This has a very sweet flavor.
Okay.
This is a polypore or a boletus mushroom. It doesn't have gills. This chanterelle has false gills.
Okay.
And they are grown they grow in nature. They cannot be reproduced in an environment. And that's why they have such a value, because they're kind of rare to find. And they're only found certain times a year.
And when you do, I love to have them around. So what I'm going to do is leave them nice and big.
Okay.
Because I want to grill them like a steak. It's just an addition to the steak. Is that okay right there?
Beautiful.
And we're going to just pop them on the grill, get some nice grill marks, and let them cook down. And you have all this great flavor around it. And while the steak rests, we'll be able to finish it. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to go away while we're kind of letting the mushrooms kind of do their thing, the steak finish up. When we come back, we'll add a little butter to this sauce and some fresh herbs, a little bit of tarragon and parsley. We'll finish that with our pork, and that'll be our pork dish. And we're going to finish our steak with just some beautiful mushrooms over the top. So don't go away. David and I will be right back with more mushrooms. See you soon. Hey everybody, welcome back to A Culinary Journey. Dave, this has been fun, man.
It's been awesome.
You did a great job, and thank you for all the mushrooms.
You're welcome.
So here's what we have. We have that pork scallopini, right?
Beautiful.
And it's nice and tender, and I popped it back in to finish it off. I added butter to the mix. Now I'm just going to add a little bit of fresh tarragon. That'll be kind of a nice little combination. We'll put that over the top of that. Oh, those are beautiful. I can't wait to dig into that. That is absolutely gorgeous. And then, let's take our steak. Let's see how we did with that. We let it rest for about 10, 15 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Huh?
Nice red marble in the middle.
Yeah, this is going to be beautiful. Wait till we show this to everybody. Or maybe not. We'll just keep it for ourselves. Just put our steak right there.
Oh, that is sweet. Look at that color.
Just cooked perfectly to like that medium rare-ish. And then, like we were talking about, how much flavor these kind of mushrooms bring to the table. I mean, big and chunky, just grill them, get some of that heat to them, break them down just a little bit, and salt, pepper, a little bit of oil, and sometimes just salt and pepper. That's all you really need for these, right? So we have some grilled mushrooms, and that's about it. I mean, we had the salad from before. We have our steak. We have our pork. I mean, you can't get much better than that, man.
Voila.
Voila. Oh, hey, mushroom tea. Where'd yours go?
Right here.
Yeah, let's talk real quick. Mushroom teas from harder mushrooms, where you kind of just steep it.
Yep, you steep it in water that's come to a boil, and you can make some of the most immune-boosting mushroom drink that you could imagine. It's used worldwide, and it helps to fight cancer in the body, polysaccharides, omega-3s, and
incredible.
It's good stuff.
Man, I had a great time. Thanks again, David. If Dave is the man when it comes to mushrooms. He's the guy to talk to all the time. I love his mushrooms. Great mushrooms in this area, and I hope you enjoyed your time here, and we'll see you next time on A Culinary Journey. Brought to you in part by Monadnock Flooring and Decorating, offering quality sales, service, and installation for over 35 years on Production Avenue next to Subaru of Keene.